Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The K, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. We got it right. This is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 133. My pick this week was a documentary about Waco called Waco, American Apocalypse that was just released in March on Netflix.
Nothing like a good
51-day standoff to get your
documentary.
I felt like we went soft for a little bit talking about smart
We're
studios,
talking about music,
and I was like, we need to get back into it, and definitely got
back
into
baby.
it with this documentary. Now, I was in 93. I would have been about 11 years old, 10 or 11. Definitely remember this from the standpoint of a kid that could understand what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I remember this too, but not in the detail that this thing shows.
Well, so that's what we'll get into, because the story is told through the eyes of some survivors of the cult, a sharpshooter who was part of the FBI hostage response team, which, that dude was hardcore as hell. We're going to talk about the FBI negotiator, head negotiator on the scene that was there from day one until they basically kind of pushed him out towards the end when everything went to hell.
One cult girl who's loony as all could be.
The one that was with him that go into jail that looks like she would still be in the cult if she was.
Still would be.
One of the kids that was part of this her story was horrific.
Dude, yeah.
And then the news guy who was basically first on the scene,
God, that dude too.
When the ATF was going to run the search warrant on the compound. So again, back to what I said at the beginning, this was set up through the eyes of a lot of people that were involved in the situation on the ground from day one throughout the 51 days of the standoff.
And the drummer. And the drummer
we'll
in the
get to
cult.
him in a minute. Don't just spill
band.
your candy on the
and the drummer
lobby.
in the cult band.
So as a kid, I remember this vividly because it was all over the news. And from what the media told everyone was that there's this child abuser, crazy cult members that had locked themselves up in a place in literally a cow field in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And that's how I've thought about this for years and years and years. Well, 30 years later, watching this documentary, I was like, holy crap, there was a lot about this I did not know.
You mean the media? You mean the media spun something in a favorable way?
Definitely, and there were copyright incidences that happened after this because a Timothy McVeigh was actually on scene.
That was crazy too.
Selling stickers to people because he was all about what these guys were doing. Basically, their standpoint was the fact that they were allowed to carry arms and that the government basically came in shooting without giving them their due search and seizure. They had an argument, regardless of what was going on in those doors or behind closed doors, which obviously there was some stuff involving children that definitely shouldn't have been happening. The government and the ATF more specifically screwed the pooch on this, and we'll get into how they screwed the pooch next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The K. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 133, Waco, American Apocalypse. So this was a part of the story I thought was one of the most crazy situations, and I had not heard this, and it may have been told, but I just didn't hear it. So essentially what happens was the Davidians were stockpiling ammo, like 1 million rounds, guns for days, explosives, and I guess a UPS driver or FedEx driver who was delivering a package out there. It got damaged, and oops, out rolls a live grenade. When that happens, because you can't
order grenades.
You can't send that through the mail today. Despite what you've heard, it's not a good idea. Anyway, so he reports it to the ATF like they do. And the ATF sends a undercover agent into the Davidian church who joins them. Who this guy had balls of steel. Can you imagine going into a place where you think they may have a lot of guns and then having to dude. And so he goes in, and the base of operations, which the sniper ended up calling Sierra 1, was this defunct farmhouse that was essentially across the road. So they do a bunch of investigation and come to find out that yes, they are stockpiling
they have
arms.
A lot of
they got a lot of guns, a lot. And so the ATF eventually decides to make a run on these dudes.
But the cult leader, David Koresh, dude, he was just a rocker, man.
Well, hold on. We don't want to get.
You're jumping the gun.
You keep trying to spill the candy.
You're jumping the gun.
I'm not done with this part yet. So the ATF is going to make a run on these dudes. And a news reporter in Dallas gets word that this ATF is going to make a run on this religious group out in the middle of Texas. So he goes out there, and either one of the guys from the news crew or one of the ATF agents, it's in the middle of nowhere, is trying to get out there for the raid and gets lost. And he stops a male guy on the side of the road, because who else better to ask directions?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, do you know where Mount Carmel is?" And the male guy goes, "Yeah, you got to go down this road and over here." And he goes, "Why are you going out there?" And he goes, "Oh, the ATF is planning a raid." Well, come to find out, that mailman was a member of the church. And so instead of doing his route, he turns
like
around
a movie, man. You
and
can't
goes
make it up.
back to the place to let them know. Well, the ATF then finds out that they know what's going to happen. They know it's coming. And so at that point, even the agent who had been shot said, "We don't need to do this now. The element of the surprise is over. If they are saying these guys have as much ammo as they possibly have in this place, there is no reason we need to walk up here with bulletproof vests, holding guns ourselves, and say, 'Come on out. We want to talk to your leader.'"
Yeah.
It's probably not going to go good.
That was probably mistake one.
That was mistake one. And they shouldn't have done it. They should have done it a different way. And it could have been dealt with a completely different way. And instead, they go up there and start shooting and end up losing 4 ATF officers. Countless members got shot.
The footage was
crazy. My God, dude, just because there were news cameras literally behind the buses right up close.
Yeah.
And his description of the events was insane. The ATF guy that got shot, his was insane. The ATF agent that was talking about his buddy who was literally wounded and they had to get out. And that was why they called the ceasefire, because he was bleeding to death. They had to get him out. They roll him out in a news truck. It's just like, how bad can you screw this up?
That was massive.
Well, they screwed it up real bad. And we will get to the beginnings in Jay's almost run-in with the Davidian Church next. Dark Side of the Stream, 104.7 The K. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio with his Dark Side of the Stream, episode 133, discussing Waco American Apocalypse. So Jay Stevens was in LA in the 80s, and 90s, one of the guys that was part of this church was also a drummer who was working out in LA. And one day, a really charismatic David Koresh comes in there,
long hair, guitar
looking
player,
for guitars, like hanging out
at Guitar Center in Hollywood. I've been there how many times?
You could have been that guy sitting there.
Hey, what's up, man? You look good.
This guy has a good look.
Yeah, I look like Jesus. He would have loved me, man.
Unfortunately, and this is probably what saved your life, is that David Koresh was a front man, and you were also a front man.
Can't have two front men.
And it
can't
just
have two cult leaders in a cult.
It wouldn't have worked. That whole situation would have burned up before it ever got started.
Yeah, you're right.
Who was going to be the leader, you or David Koresh?
Yeah.
So
but he did meet a drummer. He met a drummer.
He met a drummer who was part of it and actually got out. Very lucky that he got out.
He said, "Hey man, come to Texas with us. We're forming a band.
We're forming a band. It's all about God and
free rehearsal space."
He goes down there. Well, David Koresh had himself a sugar mama who was the original leader of the Davidian Church, and he ended up having a romantic relationship with her.
She was old too.
She was old, but it helped. He ended up becoming the leader. But then before that happened, her son and him actually had a shootout about who would take control. He ended up losing. Koresh won, and the rest is history. Now back to the standoff. There are so many different missteps the government, the FBI, and everyone took, I think, that it really just boggles your mind when you can hear everyone's story. Yeah, David Koresh was crazy. There's no one arguing that. Yes, he probably and did abuse children, and regardless of what their beliefs say, it's not okay for you to have a sexual relationship with a 12-year-old, regardless of the fact if you think that they're actually adults at 12 or not, or 14, whatever it is. That's not the law.
No.
The Bible says you have to follow the rule of law, the law of the land, or whatever it is. So, hey, man, I don't care when you say they're adults.
Some of these guys
if they're not 18,
that info,
you can't be doing that stuff. So those are the facts. But again, the missteps here, because there were children inside the entire time and that lost their lives, upwards of 25 or 26, I think, at the end of the day, which is horrific. The government really had a tall order here to try and get all these people out. Say Koresh, whatever, his buddy, they can burn, but you got to get those kids out because they had no part in this at all. They were just doing what kids do, following their parents.
Yeah.
So eventually they bring in the FBI, the sniper dude's story about watching, he had an opportunity to take Koresh out
right.
at one point, but he didn't do it.
Oh, man.
Could have been a completely different story had he just taken that shot, but he didn't because that's not his job. But you can definitely tell there were two camps here. The negotiators that wanted a safe and easy end. It would have taken a lot of time, but
and the other guys,
it was taking about $1 million a day. But what's interesting is, do you remember in Die Hard, whenever they finally, the dad from Family Matters is there and he's talking with Bruce Willis, and it's just those two at the beginning. The cops get there and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Then all of a sudden, here comes the FBI, and the FBI are like, "Screw off, you stupid cops! You don't know. We're going to take the helicopter up there with machine guns, and we're going to shoot these guys, and they don't know who they're messing with. The United States government, man. They end up getting blown up." What was crazy to me is I'm watching this, and I'm like, "That's exactly how Die Hard went down," which was in a movie years before this happened, but the FBI still didn't learn. They came in and they were like, "No, man, we're going to bring in these big ass tanks. We're going to show these guys we know what we're doing." The Davidians didn't want that. They were like, "Look, this is our property. This is our land. This is our stuff. You guys came in here shooting."
You listen to those phone calls and it's like,
they're actually pretty reasonable.
And
the other thing that they talk about is there was that video he made with the kids so he could show the world, like, "Hey, look what everyone's inside. They're good." When they went to Janet Reno, they didn't show that video to her. They just said, "Hey, this guy's involved in child abuse. They shot ATF agents. What should we do?" They think that they possibly, if they had showed her that video, then she may have had it. "Hey, wait a minute. There's kids in there. Out. This is a different situation. We got to figure out a different way." But eventually, the lead negotiator, who got a lot of people out, ends up getting the boot, and they just cut communication. Eventually, saying, "Hey, we're going to shoot some tear gas in there." They hang up, and that's how this whole thing came to an end, which we will end next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 133, the Waco American Apocalypse. So there is some controversy here about how the fires in the building got started. Some believe that it was the FBI. Part of the tear gas may have ignited it. The building wasn't constructed that great anyway.
Best when they were saying, you are not, we're going to put tear gas in the building. This is not an assault.
Yeah, I was like,
this is not an assault. As the tank is driving through the front door.
This is not an assault. They're basically breaking down the house you're in. I don't know why you would do that.
That was some shadiness for sure going on, man.
This is a three episode series. It's really quick.
It's really good. Amazing. The takes of all different. You got the one chick who's all in on the cult theory.
She's still, I think, and her kids were in there. Woo! I mean,
and you got the drummer dude who got out barely, and you've got the agents, like I said, the sniper who's an intense character.
Dude.
You've got the guys who were literally got shot on the roof. There, fell off the roof, like. All their perspectives, man. And then you've got what I thought was the craziest part at the end. If you noticed when they were before Congress after the whole thing, Republicans, Democrats, they were all going, "You guys screwed up, FBI. You guys went about this wrong." If that happened today, you know how it would be Republicans or this side would be like, "No, you guys did it right." These guys would be like, "No, they did it wrong." You know, back then it was like, we're all one here.
You guys,
you don't see that anymore. All the government stuff now is all, we're Republicans, you're Democrats.
20 plus kids in there.
Crazy diversity.
There's no reason for you to be doing that. Now, again, there is also the argument that the fires were started. They do have audio recording of Koresh talking about gas cans and hay in there. It's not definitive, but it doesn't also look like, that may have been his plan the whole time, was to martyr everyone so that his message would be, it's not outside the realm of possibility that's what he wanted the entire time.
It was deep. There was some deep things even that we didn't even get into here on this.
Yeah, there was so much we could have talked about.
Yeah, it would be a 4-hour segment.
Easy. But it's sad as a parent. It's sad. As a human being, it's sad. Nobody won in this, and it's just horrific what some people will do in the name of God, and some people will do in the name of
government,
democracy, and whatever you want to call it. It's there's no winners here, and again, it's horrific to watch and to relive. But yeah, it's a crazy documentary. I'm glad I did it. Because again, I was like, I already know about that, and I watched it, and I was like, nope.
You think you know the story, but the story is way deeper. There's a lot of levels to it. Yeah, it was, and the footage was just incredible. It's like
they had access
very
to stuff,
rare that you can see that kind of stuff going on.
Phone calls, negotiator calls, like stuff that I had no idea. They got their hands on a lot of stuff.
And the gunfight of all gunfights.
Dude,
My gosh,
when they had the defense attorney walking in there, and they get close up, and you see just that building. Well, no, yeah, he said walking on the shells, just millions of shells, but the holes in the building. It's just like, oh my God. But anyway, yeah, horrific story. And man, it's crazy. And then, of course, Timothy McVeigh would go on to bomb Oklahoma City after this
on the anniversary date
to go after the field agent that was on site for this. That's what his end goal was.
And it was on the anniversary date. Yeah,
was to get him. And the reporter, that was one of the things where she said she was driving around on the anniversary of the Waco when that bombing happened, and she heard it and she goes, oh my God, pulled off at the side of the road and started throwing up because she'd lived through it and she knew. Terrific, man. Terrific. It's so sad. But
good documentary, though.
Definitely giving it, I guess, four Colts. I have to at least, probably 4.5. Probably one of the best ones we've watched in recent memory.
For sure.
Jay's turn next for Dark Side of the Stream. What are we watching?
I've got another one that's extremely good, and it's gnarly firsthand perspective. Volcano rescue about these people, like in New Zealand. Day trip, you go to this volcano island, take pictures, excursion, and the thing erupted while you're there.
47 guides trapped at the eruption. Holy crap, dude.
I've been standing in Hawaii so many times on the edge of the volcano crater to go see it and stuff. So many times. These guys did the same thing, and this thing went off. So,
and they had no idea.
You've got cell phones. It's incredible. Wow. It's wild, man.
All right, cool. Well, we'll check this out.
What's it called?
Volcano Rescue from Wakari.
Yeah, Wakari.
I guess we'll figure out how to say it next. Dark Side of the Stream. Stream it online, 1047thecave.com as a podcast, live on Facebook every Thursday at 9 a.m. or YouTube. Or just listen to us live on the air, 9 a.m., 6 p.m. during Jay's show. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you we watch movies so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.